show prep with Xander as we go back and forth and pontificate on how we're going to execute this bad puppy. You would be surprised if I told you how we prepare. It's nothing to do with content, it's attitude. You see, this is more of a defensive mentality here. It's an attitude. And that's why we always start the program off with Big Sills. We are down the runway. Tower, getting ready, full throttle. You're hoping it's not the Challenger this year. You're hoping it's a nice plane flight if you're the Eagles, right? Full throttle. That could mean anything. And boy, I got to tell you, man, right out of the gate, Angelo Cataldi, way to go, Angie. Make sure you check out his blog, too. That thing yesterday is blowing up because of you guys and because of what he said. We're going to hit more into that here in a second. And we got a ton of stuff to hit on. By the way, we're hoping to catch up with Gary Cobb at 4:30. Xander, obviously, at 3:30. I want to send some love out to a former teammate and a Miami Hurricane legend. Bernie Kosar has been diagnosed with Parkinson's disease and liver failure. And I would never have been a Miami Hurricane if it wasn't for Bernie Kosar. When I was transferring from Maryland, I call him my cousin. We're cousins from another mother. Dave Pazzulli played with the Cleveland Browns. Dave played at Pitt. He was a dear friend of mine, still is to this day. And he went to my high school. We were very close. Still are, like I said, very close. And Bernie, of course, was the quarterback of the Cleveland Browns. And I kind of know who Bernie was. I saw him beat Nebraska in that 83 national championship game. It was Miami's first. I wasn't there for that. And he basically said to me, he goes, hey, let me talk to Kosar. See if Miami's interested in you. So Bernie calls up Howard Schnellenberger, and Howard Schnellenberger says, yeah, absolutely. We'd be interested in having him come down here. Miami wasn't big on transfers like they are today. And so he contacted Howard, and Howard then left, and then Jimmy Johnson picked up the baton and said, still love to have you, man. So that's how I got indoctrinated to be a Miami Hurricane, was through Bernie Kosar. And our friendship through all the years has become something of a Cane's brother thing. And he was absolutely one of the legendary players in our program's history. First guy to drive a team. He was a true freshman to a national championship. He would go on and play in numerous AFC championship games against John Elway and the Denver Broncos. The drive, all that, the fumble in the end zone by the Browns. I mean, they were on their way to going to the Super Bowl. Bernie ended up getting a Super Bowl ring, being a backup quarterback for all people, Jimmy Johnson with the Dallas Cowboys. And to hear that news today, that he's struggling now with Parkinson's disease and he's got liver failure, kind of breaks my heart a little bit, because that's somebody that's been near and dear and very close to me. So just sending my prayers out to him. Not to get to show off on a bad note there, but hey, man, you know, we all got our name on the wall somewhere. That pelt's there, isn't it? Doesn't matter what year, what day, that pelt is on the wall. And he is absolutely one of the great people you'll ever know in your life. Love Bernie Kosar. So thoughts and prayers go out with him and the entire Canes family. That appearance, though, by Angelo. Let's go over that now. Man, I think it just shows you, and I think it validates one of the things that I said. And I've been trying to express to you, hey, by the way, Big Sills is not going to let this die. As much as Odyssey and the Eagles wanted to die, no way. No way. Because what it does, it can, hey, get this. I don't really even give a shit about Howard Eskin in this conversation in a way. I really don't. It's more about Odyssey and the Eagles showing you how they control a narrative when they want to and how they control and manipulate the media. They're telling people not to say anything. Mum's the word. Both radio stations haven't said anything. Very little has been said anywhere. Why? Because Bob Lang and his henchmen are without a doubt putting the screws to these people. They want this story to go away like they did the ESP story with Deshaun Jackson, because they look at their certain mouthpieces that cover the team and they protect them. Hey, you know, there's a part of me that says I'm jealous. There's a part of me that says I'm jealous in this, because I am. That's pretty cool. You got an organization that'll back you for sexual harassment. Today in the Me Too environment and our cancel culture we have today, most 95% of the people don't survive this. Shooter says this: WEEI went the same way of WIP. Odyssey's the worst. Correct, Shooter. You know the story up there in Boston with me, don't you, Shooter? I said this yesterday, you guys. I was earmarked to be the morning guy at WEEI. I was never fired by Odyssey. As much as you guys like to read the media clippings in the on the internet, find me an article where it says Dan Sileo was fired by Odyssey. I was never fired by Odyssey. They took me off the air in San Diego because they were moving me to Boston. If you go to the Radio Inc. or Talkers Magazine or Radio Online, it says this: Bob Bollinger, market manager, San Diego. Dan Sileo will remain with company, but he's no longer in mornings, because they were moving me because I was making $300,000. That wasn't cutting it on that station, 97.3. I was never fired. Even though everyone goes, Sileo fired. I was never fired. I was never fired in Phoenix. Show me an article where there was a press release I was fired. It's about controlling a narrative. It's completely about controlling a narrative. So anything that comes out of a coach's mouth, NovaCare, those press conferences, always take it with a grain of salt. Even some of the people that covered the team, like Jeff McClain. Jeff McClain's not going to damage his accessibility to the Eagles by having some crazy ass comment. I'll tell you what I give a lot of credit to. Xander, you get this guy on a lot. Marcus Haynes does a really nice job. He does a really nice job at basically just speaking his mind. I like him. I like him a lot. I really do. Sills, the Krause is back. You like laying backs his guys. Great comment. Yes. Yes, Bob. But I'll tell you one thing. The Krauses aren't going to back me for sexual harassment or for being a racist or an anti-Semite. That's not going to happen. That's not going to go down like that. You know why? And I would not want them to. I have to represent myself too. You know, they put me on their airways. They pay me. There's some sort of like obligation to kind of like, you know, conduct myself in a decent way. You have to conduct yourself in a decent way. You can't show up at places grabbing chicks' asses. It's not, that's not conduct. That's conduct detrimental to what you're trying to accomplish. Eduardo, right. Where's the tape? Hey, I said this and I posted this. You can either vindicate or you can validate. All the Phillies have to do is post the video. Story's over. Story's over. Story's over. Why won't they do it? Because they don't want to. They're trying to protect an asset that they have. Every single one of those suites and areas have cameras on them. Okay? I want to thank you guys because you guys, a lot of you went and watched that Angelo Cataldi interview we did yesterday, and it's absolutely blown up. And we appreciate it because, hey, at the end of the day, here's my problem with WIP now. Allegedly, hey, D Hertz, you can end allegedly right now by just showing the tape. Now, here's something else to think about. So if you're WIP and there is a scandal of a player with sexually harassing someone, where does WIP have the grounds to criticize or even have a conversation about it when you don't address your own issues? That's one thing I always have done, and I promise you. And sometimes my bosses hate it, but I always address my failures and my successes because it's part of the story. Okay? What's he say here? Not a fan of Eskin, but he tried to kiss someone. This society is going to shit. Okay? I mean, once again, I don't really care about the Eskin part of this. I kind of do. Because you have to conduct yourself in a professional manner. My problem is there's the Eagles again. And their propaganda machine, hard at work. They lie to you every day. And they give you crumbs. I'll tell you the truth. I mean, they barely protect their players. Because you know why? It's more important to protect Howie, Jeffrey Lurie, and the front office than it is any one of the players or coaches. It is. Jay Brown goes radio wars. Who cares? This ain't a radio war. This is a right and wrong thing. This is right and wrong, dog. And stories that come out of NovaCare, they're lies. You don't really believe anything that comes out of those players' mouths or coach. No, not the players' mouths, the coach's mouths, and the general manager's mouth. Hey, Sills, I hate to say it. If this was Irvin, he would have been thrown to the wolves. And Eskin, because he is white, gets privilege. Your thoughts? Yeah. Plus, Michael's got a track record, though, too, Ace, to be fair, with bad behavior. So there's a track record that also goes with that. Because let's not forget something. OJ got the benefit of the doubt. Okay? For many months before people started seeing what they were watching on TV, and they had to come to a conclusion in their own mind what they thought was the truth. Okay? I mean, there's no question. Well, but I would make it more this though, Ace. I don't know if it's got a lot more to do with race, if it has more to do with that they like this person as a mouthpiece for the team. Okay? The media always painted y'all as thugs, but the Canes family's close. Got a love for each other. Absolutely. To this day, love every single one of my former teammates, and I love the guys that are currently down there right now, each and every single one of them. And you know what's great, Sean? By the way, Sean, thank you. Sean, you know what's awesome? I had somebody say this to me about my political stances and my political views, how Jerome would look at it. You should have heard our conversations in our locker room. Nobody judged anybody because of their religion, their political beliefs. Everybody admired everybody because they were individuals. They weren't trying to mold the whole team to be one value. I like a team of different values. I like a team of different personalities, different religions. That's what makes character on a team, that you can all live with one and do an accomplishment of winning a national championship. I mean, that's how you become a champion. Not everybody's cutting the same steak. You're not cutting the same cloth. I don't want to live on a team with people like that either. I want to have diversity. I mean, to me, that's exactly what makes a great football team. Is being able to live with one another with different beliefs. Okay? Seals, any way you can have Angelo on a day, a week for a full show, you guys would expose all lies. Daniel, I'll ask him. Maybe what we'll try to do is get Angelo on once a week next as the football season comes up. How's that for you? We'll do an hour. I don't know if he would do 4, but I think we can maybe get him to do an hour or even 45 minutes. What do you think, Xander? When the football season starts, regular season, we get Angelo Cataldi on every Monday, have him on somewhere 3:30, 4:30, something like that during the football season, and we'll do an hour with him. I'll ask him. He seems to be open to doing everything, and he's asked me already to do some stuff with him on his website, and I said that I would gladly help him in any way feasible because I think without a doubt he's one of the greatest sports talk radio hosts in the country, and he helped start one of the greatest radio stations of all time, if not the greatest. I think that thing is better than FAN. You know why? The fans. The fans. Dude, the host in Philadelphia, it doesn't really matter unless you find a guy like a Howard Eskin, like an Angelo Cataldi. Those guys are special. They'll last longer. A Diddy, guys like that, sure, get it. But the rest of them, they're widgets. What makes that station so great is you. Okay? You identify with the Eagles. There's a reason why they spend $4 million a year paying the Eagles for the broadcast rights. Do you understand that? WIP and Odyssey pays the Eagles $4 million a year. You understand that, right? Did you know that? Did you guys, you know that? The San Diego Padres, when I was on the Odyssey station in San Diego, paid $2.5 million. Odyssey pays the Padres $2.5 million so they can broadcast their games. Okay? So just always remember that. They pay them. And get this, the Eagles have a right of refusal if there's something that they don't like. There's outs everywhere in these contracts. I've seen them. Ryan goes like this. No, I don't know that, but I could care less. Hey, so when you're listening to somebody talk in that station, you think they're coming from a place of being genuine and doing a true show? Or do you think they're coming from a place of protecting and giving you an actual sports talk show? How about that, Ryan? How can you get any kind of a show when you know you're obligated because you pay somebody to come on your station? That's why they don't go on 97.5, The Fanatic, because they spend $4 million to go and broadcast their rights. Hey, am I exposing some stuff for you here? Huh? You didn't know that, did you? How much? You know what Odyssey pays the Yankees? They pay them $7 million to broadcast Yankee games on WFAN. That's why these teams have autonomy in telling, like Bob Lane can call up the program director or the market manager in Philadelphia and say, stop talking, or we'll pull our broadcast rights and go across the street. They'll pay us. That's right, Daniel. The reason why they hire cheerleaders is because they're a megaphone for the team. That's why when you got a guy like Angelo, like when I've told you guys this, one of the reasons that WDAE in Tampa had to fire me was because the Bucks, iHeart, Clear Channel then, was paying the Bucks to broadcast on WDAE $1.4 million. And there I am hammering away at them. And when they had the opportunity, they took full advantage of it, even with high numbers. Didn't matter. Look at Tucker Carlson on Fox News. Highest ratings of any news talk show in America by far, even Hannity. When he started talking about the pharmaceutical companies and Big Pharma, they yanked him. Big Pharma has a lot to do with broadcasting today. They control a lot of the media. How many more shots you going to get? 20? Hope it helps. All right. Let's get into what I think we're 13 days out now. We're on the runway here. We're on the runway. We're getting ready for camp here. I like some of the conversations that our guys in the mornings do. I really do. I think Xander's really kicking ass. That show sounds. D. Hertz goes, you are the media. Yeah, I'm the media, all right, but I'm no journalist. I would never consider myself a media guy, journalist guy. I'm a talk show host. A media guy? You call me that. That's fine. I never looked at myself as a media guy. I think those guys are pigs. People that portray themselves as media and columnist or journalist, hilarious. CNN's not a journalistic outlet, and neither is Fox. They're propaganda machines for both sides of the aisle. Told you, that's why I listen to C-SPAN. At least I'm trying to get somewhere center. Form my own opinions. Okay? By the way, again, to me, it's about the best guy on Pennsylvania Avenue. It's not about a Republican or Democrat. It's like rooting for a shitty coach. Would you really hire a shitty coach? Would you hire really a shitty president? Why would you hire somebody that sucks, not qualified? You wouldn't do that for your favorite football team, would you? I wouldn't. When the guy wins and he's in the White House, though, you got to kind of hope he succeeds because that means we all succeed. If they hire a shitty coach somewhere in the NFL and you're on that football team, you got to hope that guy, whether you think he's good or not, can get the job done for you because you're going to be a casualty of his failure. That's how I look at things. Well, we got the wrong guy. No, I hope not. I hope not. Okay? Right? That's right, Shooter. A journalist can't have a talk show. That's such a great comment. Never thought about that. Never thought about that. Absolutely. We're going to do a bunch of stuff today here. I want to do this. So, where's that sheet? Okay. I want to read this comment here from a FS1 host. And I want you to tell me something here. By the way, we'll ask Xander this. We'll ask, hopefully, our friend Gary Cobb this question here, too. I'm going to read this here for you. Here it is. This is James Jones, FS1 host. There's nothing that Jalen Hurts does better than Dak Prescott at the quarterback spot, but read option. I mean, here's his own words here. Xander, can I play this? Xander, am I allowed to play this? This is from FS1. And I want to make sure because I don't want to get the channel shut down. Okay. So this is James Jones on Speak for Yourself.
I mean, this dude was 5,000 yards last year, led the NFL in touchdown pass. There's nothing Jalen Hurts except running the read option and maybe the tush push that he does better than Dak Prescott. And I like Jalen Hurts. And Jalen Hurts is going to be a really good quarterback in this league. But Dak Prescott, at this point right now in the National Football League, does everything better than Jalen Hurts at that quarterback spot.
Does he win better?
Is it a team goal or we're talking about a quarterback? Because I put Reed on the team. Defenses and all that. So
I'm assuming that's Shady back there. Is he right? Because I agree with him. There's nothing Hurts does better than Dak. There's nothing that he does better than Dak Prescott. The read option, he's better. Yep. The tush push, he's right. Other than that, he doesn't throw a ball better than him. He doesn't read defenses better than him. There's nothing he does better. And again, there goes he wins. That's a team concept. And for the record, I want to show you something about that wins. He wins. He's got a better team around him. That's a team. Hey, once again, nobody would ever say this. Well, Rex Grossman also is in the same room with Jalen Hurts too, because hey, he won. He got to a Super Bowl. Wins under pressure. Let's take a look at that. So I wrote down, and we've done this exercise a little bit, but I went and did a little more detail in it. Better team, better defense. He's got a better offensive group. Guys were 8th in offense last year. He can't play defense, dude. Dak chokes better than Hurts. Let's take a look at that. So the two highest paid quarterbacks in the NFL this year are Trevor Lawrence and now Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow has been to a Super Bowl. His postseason record is 5-2. Trevor Lawrence's record is 1-1. He's 500. The second guy on this list is Jared Goff. He's $53 million. He's got a 500 record. He's 4-4 with the Lions. Justin Herbert is next on this list at 52.5. Chargers. He's 0-1. He's never won a playoff game. The next guy on this list is Lamar Jackson, 52 million. Ravens. He's 2-4. Jalen Hurts is next on this list at 51 million. Been to a Super Bowl. He's 2-3 in the postseason, under 500. Kyler Murray, 0-1, 46-1. Deshaun Watson, 1-2 at 46 million. Next guy, Cousins and Mahomes. Obviously, Mahomes, 15-3. His resume's what it is. And Cousins makes the same amount of money, has a postseason record of 1-3. So the top 10 quarterbacks that are being paid in today's NFL, 1, 2 quarterbacks have an above 500 record, and Dak's at 2-5. So when you say Dak chokes, so do the rest of these guys. Joe Burrow lost in a Super Bowl. Goff lost in a Super Bowl. Hurts lost in a Super Bowl. There's only one guy on this list with one Super Bowl win. And only 2 guys with above 500 records. Even your guy is 2-3. And an ugly law. Hey, by the way, I'm talking about what James Jones is saying. Sills, that is a fair statement by Jones. But if the Eagles reinstate the read option, Hurts is a better option. Correct, but they're not. Okay? They also show that when Dak had a good team, he was the reason they lost, not Jalen. James Carver, thank you so much, my friend. I appreciate this. Sills, it's somewhat true, but doesn't control for years in the league. As most quarterbacks, especially QBs, as most know, especially QBs, as TOI progress, you get to work short to long in internal progression reading, regardless of play, because they realize the value of the odds. That it's in detailed comment that he's saying here. It's somewhat true, but because control for years in the league, as most know, especially quarterbacks, as TOY progresses, you begin to work short too long, and internal progression, processing regardless of the play because they realize the value of the odds. Okay? Yeah, I got you. Is Prescott close to Steve Young? Prescott's going to get consideration for Hall of Fame. Last 5 years, he's been playing at a Patrick Mahomes level. Postseason, obviously, is going to count. No question about it. Is Dan Marino a shitty quarterback because he's under 500 in the postseason? Dan Marino was under 500. Steve Young was an effing beast. Yeah, because of his completion percentage. Okay? Because of a completion percentage. He was the highest guy when he retired in NFL history when it came to completion percentage. The read option is still part of our offense. No, it's not. It's not part of your offense any longer. Where was that last year, your read option? Where in the world was that in the last half of the season? I didn't see it. This goes to what John McMullen and Xander were talking about a bit this morning. And when John was saying, hey, man, if they're going to try to do things and make him into Brock Purdy, I'm paraphrasing Xander, and you're trying to turn him into Brock Purdy, a.k.a. Dak Prescott, you're going to fail. Do you think there's any coincidence they hired Dak Prescott's OC? Do you? How do you know he's going to change? How do you know Kellen Moore is really going to change? How do you know they're still not trying to have a better version of 23 with a better and more seasoned play caller? Do you agree with this comment? Last year, by the way, we're going to go into this here in a second. The problem, one of the issues with the team was inexperienced play calling. So what if you had a more experienced play caller with last year's offense? You think there would have been a difference? Probably, right? That's it, Jay. Make an excuse up for something that wasn't there. Never was on the injured list. I don't want to hear that shit. Hurt. So was Mahomes. Dan Sileo, how am I getting timed out for expressing a difference opinion? I'm not sure what you're talking about. Dan Marino threw for over 5,000 yards in the 80s. He'd have 6,000 yards in the modern era. Yeah, and he's 7-9 in the postseason. So is he a shitty quarterback because he doesn't win in the postseason either? There's very few quarterbacks that win in the post. Hurts doesn't have a 500 record, and he went to a Super Bowl. That just shows you how hard it is. He's lost every road game also. He's lost every single road game he's been in the playoffs. So, I mean, Hurts didn't read defenses, particularly zones. I don't know if the OC was the reason he didn't improve, but there were a lot of good play calls, and Hurts simply didn't get the ball out to the right guy. Yeah, because that's what James Jones is saying. James Jones is saying he does nothing better than Dak. He does nothing better. Dak Prescott has had teams loaded with talent. Okay. And you've had teams loaded with talent too. So let me look how I look at Hurts getting to a Super Bowl. So you got all the way to the bar exam and failed it. Dak hasn't. Do you get extra credit for that? Is that what you're saying? Jalen gets extra credit for a team accomplishment. Getting to a Super Bowl is not a quarterback thing. It's like, I'm talking about skill set here. I'm not talking about team accomplishments and wins. Remember, you're not paid on wins. You're paid on your skill set. You're not trying to tell me you think Jalen Hurts has more skill than Dak Prescott, because that's an absolute lie. That's like saying Aaron Rodgers doesn't have more talent than Tom Brady. He does. He absolutely is more talented. Aaron Rodgers is like a John Elway. He's that kind of talent, that kind of skill set. Every single one of these players aren't paid because they're postseason records. Every one of these players are paid because of what their skill is. Almost every one of these guys have under 500 records. And they're the highest paid guys in the league. What's your rationale to that? They're paid on skill. Correct? They're not paid on what they did in the postseason. Golf got a $53 million deal, and he's 4-4 in the postseason. Jalen Hurts, 22, was paid on 1 year. 1 season, as was Kyler Murray. Combined, Kyler Murray and Jalen Hurts are 2-4. I mean, Kirk Cousins, 1-3. This guy at 37 years old or 36 years old, whatever he is, he makes as much money as Patrick Mahomes now. You think he's paid for winning Super? He's paid as much as a generational player is in this league. And Patrick Mahomes. What's that tell you? You look at Kirk Cousins and you go, what do other teams see in Kirk Cousins? You know what they see? Skill. He's one of the most skilled quarterbacks in the league. No matter what you think, he's been rewarded financially because of that, not your opinion. You may have a shitty opinion of Kirk Cousins. That opinion doesn't match up to how the NFL sees him. It's called market value. If there's a market for you, people will pay. If there's not, they won't. Look at the running back market. If they see a need or a huge market, they'll pay you. Today's NFL, they look at the running back and they go, dude, $10 million salaries in today's NFL. Kickers make $4 or $5 million. What does your kicker make, that guy Josh Elliott, for the Eagles? $4 million? So you're telling me that Saquon Barkley makes $4.5 million more than he does, and he's a kicker. And Kirk Cousins is 37 years old, and he makes $45 million. I wonder if Cousins would make as much if he was black. That's nothing to do with this. Black quarterbacks are paid handsomely too. That comment is for the 1970s. Black quarterbacks are paid handsomely in today's NFL. It's a stupid comment. Okay, you're trying to win ball games. You think, hey, how about this? Kyler Murray, what's he done? I wonder if Brock Purdy ends up making more than Kyler Murray. Probably not, because he's white or like he's Jimmy Garoppolo. What was the excuse for Jimmy Garoppolo? He's 49-20. He's been to a Super Bowl too. Why didn't you pay him? And he's 5-3 in the postseason. Garoppolo is the number one example of your flawed conversation about Hurts. He's done more than Jalen. Postseason record, Super Bowl, his one-loss record is off the charts. He's injury-prone, Sills. Okay? By the way, this is not an endorsement of Jimmy Garoppolo. Okay, this is not. But his resume is one of the better resumes in the league. Hey, Niner, I know he's not. This is the conversation of what James Jones said. Again, I'm asking you, what does he do better as a skill set player? I'm not talking about team accomplishments. Name me one thing that Jalen does better than Dak Prescott. Does he throw a better football? No. Does he read defenses better? No. Sills, you're inconsistent. During the season, you said the regular season doesn't matter, but now it does. No. I said to you, players are paid. This is about compensation. Players are paid on who they are and their numbers. They're not paid on wins. Dak Prescott's not making all the money he's going to make, the $60 million, because he's 2-5 in the postseason. The same way that Lamar Jackson, who just got paid being 2-4, $53 million. He wins. Okay. So if you put Jalen on that Cowboy team, you think he'd still win? Never. Hey, T. Cole, tell me one thing he does better. As a skill set player, Bob Brown, Sills, the team is figuring out a way to embrace Hurts's unique skills within a scheme. Hurts doesn't need a lot of them to be Dak. What? I don't believe that. I think they hired Kellen Moore to be the next Dak Prescott with a little bit of a twist. And that's why Jalen's looking at it like this is different to him. And get this, I heard John McMullen say something. It blew my mind. And Xander was listening to it, and I was like, here's my take. Well, when Jalen Hurts says this is more terminology changing, why wouldn't Kellen Moore change the terminology to make it easier for Hurts? Why would he make Hurts follow his terminology so it would be easier for the coordinator? I thought this was about a Hurts reclamation project. I know this. If I was bringing a new offensive skill set and a new offense in, and Jalen thought something was an out pass or whatever the terminology was, a brown set, red set, strong side brown, I would make it so that it would be compatible for him to be able to adapt to it easier, because the transition, the least amount of resistance, gives me the best formula for success. Why would I resist by giving him a whole new terminology sheet? That's just ass backwards. I want you to drive the car this way now. The brake, the steering wheel is on the other side now. Well, why don't you make the car compatible to what the kid has been driving the last 2 years? I heard John say that. I was like, why would the coordinator make the quarterback have to go through a new terminology sheet? Wouldn't it be vice versa? Because the entire team would have to know terminology, which makes for a longer process. And here's the thing you have to understand. And Xander was right on this one. Guess what, guys? You don't have a lot of practice time. It's not like it used to be in a day where you had 3 months of training camp. You got about 14 days of training camp and you're off to Brazil. That's called communication. So Kellen Moore's not changing, but Jalen has to change and listen to a brand new language. You set the kid back again. Moore should change, not the quarterback. Hey, you could change the play, but have the same terminology to make that play work. And what Jalen will see with what he's been doing for the last 3 years. Takes a little more work. But what you're doing now is, that was the first sign I know there's trouble. Is when I heard John McMullen say, when Jalen said 95%, that was more terminology. So the offensive coordinator is making the quarterback learn a whole new play sheet with language that he has no idea what fits that offensive play. He may know the play, but they're calling it something different now. Why? Why would you do that? Aren't you trying to make this simple, this transition? Why would you make it more difficult? It didn't make sense when I heard that. Bobby Ross, and I know like Barrett Brooks doesn't really like the guy, but when Bobby Ross went from Georgia Tech to the San Diego Chargers, I asked Coach, I go, man, you guys had pretty good success right away. You even got to a Super Bowl. They got crushed by the 49ers in that Super Bowl. But I said, Coach, how'd you transition in the NFL like that? I said, I didn't ask the players to transition. We changed. If I'm a coordinator, I design my plays and game plan based off the talent of my quarterback, not the other way around. According to John McMullen, they changed the terminology around on Jalen. That a way to coach them? It's a way to confuse them. And with the limited amount of time you have, how can you possibly be on the same page? You're not going to play him in the exhibition season. You're probably going to play him a little bit in these controlled scrimmages. And other than that, you're going to be possibly in helmets and shorts most of the time, a couple full live scrimmages, and you're going to be, like I said, off to Brazil. There's not enough time here. And he struggled in the offseason, learning the new terminology. I'm just going by John. He's out there. Remember something. Hey, he's out there. And he's saying it's new terminology for Jalen. Okay. Wow. New terminology for the quarterback. Why would you do that? When you have limited time to put the offense intact. And this goes back to what I said. Well, they're going to probably implement a little bit of 22. Probably. But not a lot, I don't think. I think they're going to look at 23 and say, we were right. We just had inexperienced play callers. But the way it's sounding, they're going to change the terminology of a year ago with an offense that kind of worked other than the turnovers. Big Sale's not trying to be a conspiracy theorist, but do you think Hurts might have said 95% of the offense of Kellen is new because he's trying to buy himself some time as if there's a learning curve? Of course there's a learning curve. He's got to learn. Hey, let's just pretend that the plays are the same. If I'm a coordinator, I'm designing plays and game plan based off the talent of my quarterback, not the other way around. Okay. And I appreciate that. Thank you, Eagle fan. I appreciate it. Thank you, Daniel. Absolutely true. And I agree with you what you said about 95%. But here's the thing. Maybe he's buying himself more time. I don't think Jalen Hurts comes off as a guy that is trying to. I don't think that guy has motives, so to speak. I think he talks vague because I think that's how Nick Saban talked. I see some RPOs and Hurts under center. Pre-snap motion will help Hurts out. What do you think, Sills? Yeah, probably so. I think Kellen will probably do a little bit of that. Moving the players around too is going to help. Okay, I think moving the players around into the slot. I'd like to see Devontae in that slot. Can you imagine Devontae Smith running those routes against safeties? Shit, he's showing you that he's a little more durable. Eagle fan goes, I don't trust Kellen Moore. I don't think Kellen Moore is the issue here. I think what you're asking Kellen Moore to do, disciple. We should have hired Bill Belichick because he, like Nick Saban and he, like Nick Saban and Jalen, can relate because Bill would coach him hard. You know what else he would do, Disciple? Can you imagine having Bill Belichick across from Jalen Hurts, telling him all the things? And by the way, who is he exceptionally close to? He's close to Saban. And now that Saban is not a head coach, he's an ESPN guy, I'd bring Nick Saban in as a consultant, and I'd go over all of Jalen Hurts' deficiencies that Nick Saban thinks that he may still have. And I would listen to Nick, have Nick talk. Nick's one of the greatest defensive-minded guys of all time. You want a consultant? Have that guy sit in front of Jalen Hurts. Hey, Jalen, this is the reason why I benched you over Tua. You want to get coached hard? You want to have a real conversation here? Here's why I benched you. And see if he got better at it. Then you go back and you talk to your guys, Howie and Nick. He hasn't gotten better, or he has gotten better. There was a reason Saban benched him. You know why? Tua knew where to go. He knew where to go with the ball. Is he as gifted as an athlete as Tua? Never. Didn't matter. There lies your example. Brady's no athlete compared to Aaron Rodgers, but he knew where to go with the ball. There's your prime example. Brock Purdy is nowhere the athlete that Jalen is. He's a better quarterback, though, because he knows where to go with the ball. He knows how to spread it around, and he's got a great play caller. The play caller likes that skill set. The play caller thought he was going to coach a guy like Hurts with Trey Lance. Then he realized he couldn't. But I see Kellen Moore's now all of a sudden going to go from a Dak Prescott style to a Jalen Hurts style when Kyle Shanahan couldn't. Where in the fucking world do you get that from? That Kellen's just going to go. And I heard John go, well, he's a talented guy. Kyle Shanahan, would we not consider Kyle Shanahan to be a better play caller than Kellen Moore? He couldn't do it. Well, he had the wrong guy in Trey Lance. Okay. So he handpicked that guy. He tried coaching that guy. And the Cowboys traded a 3 or 4 for him. And he moved him out and he gave up 3 1s for him. Okay. And he just happened to land on a planet Purdy to save his ass. Okay. Hey, Marcus goes, JC, you hate on Jalen Hurts every day. I dare you. Hey, how about this, Marcus? I dare you not speak about Hurts for one stream. I will not do that. This entire season is based on his ass and him winning and him riding the ship. There's actually 2 other areas that I'll say here in a second here. But let's not get this twisted. The quarterback in every single NFL city is either going to carry his team to a Super Bowl or he's not. You're not going to get to a Super Bowl with a shitty quarterback. So in Pittsburgh, will Russell Wilson do it? In Buffalo, will Josh Allen do it? In San Francisco, will Brock Purdy do it? Is he the guy? Are they going to invest in him? So sit back and relax. Your guy, again, was in a conversation on a talk show, a national show, where James Jones said there's nothing Dak doesn't do better than Hurts. So don't get butthurt over it. We did get to a Super Bowl with Hurts. Dude, that is a metric that I can show you shitty quarterbacks have gotten to Super Bowls. That doesn't mean Hurts is good. Excuse me. That doesn't mean Hurts is great. I've seen less than great quarterbacks get there because it's a team accomplishment. Lesser players than Hurts have gotten there. Steve goes, Jalen's a baller. For 1 year, he's been. Sills, would you rather have 22 Hurts or 22 Dak Prescott in both of their respected systems? I want Dak Prescott in last year's system under Mike McCarthy. Actually, Mike McCarthy did a better job with Dak last year than Kellen Moore did. Kellen Moore did have 2 number 1 ranked offenses, to be fair. But Dak Prescott led the NFL in touchdown passes last year as well. Had a great season. With lesser talent, too, because there was really no number 2 on that team. Tight end turned out to be pretty good. The running back, Tony Pollard, gave him enough. And I don't think they're going to have that this year. So you're saying it's easy to get to a Super Bowl? No. I'm saying that you don't have to be a superstar quarterback to get to a Super Bowl. Hurts is good enough to win it all. We'll see. We'll see. I'm saying you don't have to be a superstar quarterback to get to a Super Bowl. I can give you 50 examples. James Carver, thank you, my brother. Sills, and minimal more footage online, e.g., clinic at Auburn, verbiage seems longer but simpler, less shorter, hand terms, like his Y hustle being a simple Y motion cross pre-snap. It does. And James, I know what you're saying. The play gets in quicker, doesn't it? The play gets in quicker, which means the quarterback is going to be able to process the intel better once he gets back to his 7-step, which is critical. Anytime that, like here, James, one of the things that made it so, that was so, okay, one thing that was so insane that you had with John Gruden, his plays were so long in verbiage. By the time the quarterback got the play into the rest of the team, especially if you were late getting the play in, you were already down on the 25-second shot clock, and you didn't have time for the quarterback to process it. And what happens when you do that? When you have more verbiage like that, the defense automatically, the closer it gets to 5 seconds when you have to set the O-line, that's the advantage to the defense. When you get to the O-line and it's about 15 seconds or 10 seconds, the advantage still sits on the offensive side. When you're scrambling to get to the line of scrimmage and you're around 8 seconds, 7 seconds, I already know as a defender, by the 5-second mark, they've got to set the line, which means they have to put you down in a stance. I already know the snap count. It doesn't matter. First, second sound. You give the advantage to me to get off the ball. I mean, anytime you have a lot of verbiage like that, like a John Gruden offense, it absolutely hurts the process of the quarterback. And I thought last year, Brian Johnson, that was part of the issues he had too. Those plays. How many times last year, James, did you see that play get in late? How many times did you see, like, the play was getting in late? Like 25 seconds, all of a sudden the play gets in at about 18. They get to the huddle. By the time they get to 10, 11, you're sitting there and you're in the huddle. You already know as a defender, they got 5 seconds to get the offense set up, and they got 5 seconds to get down in a stance. I already know what I'm doing. Linebacker, once the guy goes set, he's going to send the defense into their coverage. Banjo, cover 3, deep third, nickel, blitzes. You already know. Okay? Last year, Eagles got away with too many delay. And that's going to be another thing. The Kelsey, losing of Kelsey here. I'm hopeful that Hurts will have better decision-making than Dak did under Moore. See, now this is where I will disagree with James Jones here. I think Dak, I don't think Dak has the same. I think Jalen have given a better play caller. I think Mike McCarthy's underrated as a play caller. I do. Aaron Rodgers put up insane numbers with Mike McCarthy. Last 3 years, 2 of those years were MVP years. Oh, well, I'll take that back because 2 of those years were under LaFleur. LaFleur is a good play caller, but he did win MVPs. He's won 4 of them. So we won 2 with Mike when he was there. I'm not comparing Dak and Jalen. There's 2 different guys. But they hired Dak's OC. Eagles' problem is not about talent. The coaches, players, trust management. They shouldn't. What is their character? Will they continue to quit on management the way management quits on them? No personality. I don't know, Sam. You're being a little harsh. I think if you start showing success, not even in a one-loss column, but if you just start showing success, okay, you know, like Green Bay did last year, things look bumpy. But Matt LaFleur saw it when it came to Jordan Love, and he was right in the end. You highlighted 5% of what was said on the segment. They showed Jalen and Dak's numbers are similar, so what makes them different then, Sells? He's a better passing quarterback. And their skill sets are not the same because you keep adding that stupid-ass run offense thing that no one cares about. Dude, that running stuff with those touchdowns don't mean shit. Let's take a look at this list of all the running quarterbacks that have high totals and touchdowns and see where they are. Trevor Lawrence, nowhere. Joe Burrow, nowhere. Jared Goff, nowhere. Justin Herbert, nowhere. Lamar, okay. Hurts, okay. Kyler Murray, nowhere. Deshaun Watson, nowhere. Kirk Cousins, nowhere. Patrick Mahomes, nowhere. Come on, man. Nobody's talking about yards, 800 yards carrying, and 10 touchdowns with those dudes. I say, if Dallas doesn't pay Dak and Hurts shits the bed, would you be interested in Dak with Kellen Moore here? Yeah. You know why? Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins. He's the prime example of that. Prime example. What is different is that in the games that really need to count, Dak is the downfall. So was Hurts last year. He's 2-3 in the postseason. He's got a Super Bowl appearance. Okay. So did Jared Goff. And you guys, I know, think that Jalen's better than him, and he's not. Why? What does Jalen do better than Jared Goff? Can you name one thing? Name me one thing that Jalen Hurts does better than Jared Goff. Doesn't have a better postseason record. He doesn't have better yardage numbers. He doesn't win as much. He's been to 2 conference title games, 2 different teams. Actually, Ian, Goff has won more. He's 5-2 in the postseason. 5-2. Oh, so Goff is entering his 9th year. So we still have to wait then on Jalen, right? Okay, I got it. Okay. And he's in Detroit. He had 38 I don't give a shit about that. That stuff doesn't win Super Bowls. Running quarterbacks don't win Super Bowls. No guy with over 6 touchdowns in a season rushing has ever won a Super Bowl but Steve Young. He had 6 one year. No one. Why do you compare a veteran to a guy that's only been starting for 3 or 4 years? Why'd you pay him then? Dak's been in the league 9 years. Well, why'd you pay him then? If you don't think you know what he is now, don't you know what he is? Is he a franchise guy now or not? You paid him like he's one of the top guys. You paid him the same that Goff's been in the league 9 years. You paid him the same as Goff. Josh Allen, hey, another guy. I don't care about those rushing touchdowns. I care about the interceptions. Still has 100 touchdowns passing in the last 3 years. He's 25. Okay. So then you still don't know what you have. Okay. That's James Jones's point. And again, you're not gauged against a guy who how many years he's been in the league. You're gauged by the talent around you today. Who are the quarterbacks in the NFL right now? Is your guy better than the guy in Detroit? Is he better than the guy in San Francisco? Is he better than nobody cares how many years you've been? They care, is your guy better? Can your guy win a Super Bowl? Well, Danny got to one. Again, Rex Grossman got the one. Colin Kaepernick got the one. I could go down the list of all these nobodies. That's not an indictment of whether or not you're a great quarterback. Shitty quarterbacks have gotten to Super Bowls. I can name you. Jake Delhomme got the one. Hurts is better than Purdy at what? I ain't winning. His time in the league, since you guys say that Dak's 9 years in, okay? Purdy's only a few years in. He's been to 2 straight NFC title games. 5th quarter in a Super Bowl. 4,000 yards, 33 passing touchdowns. Name me one thing your guy does better than Brock Purdy. He runs the ball better. Like James Jones said. Okay. You can keep that. It's funny how you talk about total touchdowns because they don't matter. Look at Lamar Jackson. How is that helping him? 35 rushing touchdowns. Has that helped him get to a Super Bowl? No. That's why they went out and got Derrick Henry. Because they're hoping Henry can put up 10. Don't forget Matt Hasselbeck. Matt Hasselbeck got to a Super Bowl. I forgot about that bum. Matt Hasselbeck. Matt Hasselbeck got one. Wow, great. That's quite a crew you're in. And Matt Hasselbeck, Jimmy G, and Rex Grossman and Jalen Hurts. It's quite a crew. Running a touchdown doesn't equate to much as they only earn the same 7 points. Come up with better Yeah, right. How about this? Here's the better content. What does rushing touchdowns have to do with anybody who's ever won a Super Bowl? Name me one. Name me one. One. Where a guy was dominant running the ball. That is, again, what James Jones was saying on Speak for Yourself. That's all he's saying. Jalen wins more. Okay. His team wins more. And when the team fell apart last year, he didn't win more. So if Jalen wins more, what happened last year, the last half of the season? The team sucked. Couldn't pull him out of it, could he? Because the team around him imploded. Right? And it's not fair to compare him. Well, you should compare him always to Mahomes. You should, but you guys get a little bit angst with that. Mahomes won a Super Bowl with an RPO. He sure did. He pulled it out when he needed it. In the 5th quarter of the Super Bowl. Let's take a look at that. How many rushing touchdowns? Hey, somebody, can you do me a favor? How many rushing touchdowns in the regular season last year did Patrick Mahomes have? I'd be interested to see that. Because somebody just said that he won a Super Bowl with RPOs. Yeah, he pulled it out when he needed it. He started running those RPOs because his running game wasn't going anywhere. That's a guy that adapts to the environment around him and knows. How's that? What do you think Mahomes had last year in rushing touchdowns? 3? You think the Kansas City Chiefs are going to run him in a Raider game? In the regular season? Okay? You think he's going to run? Oh, look at 215. He had no rushing touchdowns last year. Some RPO guy. So wait a minute. Mahomes had no rushing touchdowns. And Jalen had 15. There lies the gap. Oh, man. James Jones. He's only had 12 in it. So, hey, who said the RPO for Patrick Mahomes? He's had 12 rushing touchdowns in his entire NFL career. 12. Some RPO quarterback. And then he ran the RPO in the Super Bowl. He ran the RPO in the Super Bowl because he needed it. Oh, man. All right. I want to do something before we get Xander on here. But, Sills, can you honestly say Purdy has better arm talent than Hurts? Absolutely. Comparison quarterbacks has to count for a system. Philly's nowhere close to the West Coast timing system. Dude, that guy threw for 4,200 yards and 30 touchdowns. Jalen Hurts has never thrown for over 3,900 yards in his entire career and over 23 touchdowns. That guy's not a passer. And you got 2 1,000-yard receivers the last 2 years on your team. Purdy doesn't have that. You got more talent on your football team than any team in the league, and you don't utilize it to the max. Think about that. You got a number squad. Everybody gets their numbers. So the team stunk at the end of the year last year, but everyone got their numbers. That's what the 2023 season embodied. Dude, like I said, you know what my criticism is? And this is why I agree with James Jones, former wide receiver for the Packers. He's right. There's very few quarterbacks Jalen does more things better than it. There's just very few of them. So why not stick with what he did in 22? They refuse. And this goes back a little bit to the conversation we had yesterday. Same shit, same bat channel. They think they know better. We're going to find out. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. Because I don't think he's good enough as a quarterback on reading defenses. I don't think he's good enough. It's why he was benched at Bama. And it's why he had turnovers last year, because they tried to make him into a drop-back kid. Couldn't pick up the blitzes. And again, play call. Okay. Sure. And like John McMullen said today, you have no excuses now. You got your experience. You have your players. It's over with. It's over. Here, I'm going to do this here. I'll probably redo this here with Xander a bit when we get him at the bottom of the hour. It's less than 2 weeks away to the start of training camp. Have the 2023 issues been addressed? Purdy was bad when the weapons went down, Dan. Okay. Okay. And Didn't they win 14 games last year? 13 games? Let me ask these simple questions here. And by the way, you don't have a lot of time in training camp. So it's over with now. You got to get yourself ready. And somehow, with the new terminology, in 2 weeks of training camp, get yourself ready to get to Brazil. Have the Eagles addressed the inexperienced coordinators of 2023? Yeah, they addressed it. They addressed it. Have they addressed better balance on offense? I think they're trying to with Barkley. They're hoping that he brings more in the run game, right? Okay. Last year, you were not balanced, especially in the second half. Okay. He's in the second half now. I mean, in the second half of the season. Jalen, thank you, my friend. In the second half of the season, right? They weren't balanced. Have they addressed the pass rush? Kind of. I know John McMullen's really high on Bryce Huff because of his success rate on a shitty team. When you're playing from behind. Okay. We'll see what those numbers look like when you're the hunted, not a hunter. Once the Jets lost their quarterback, that team would imploded. James says, but can you agree that not considering a system and just stats akin to when people used to compare Young and or Montana stats to Marino's like completion and then said Marino was way worse? Here's the thing, James. You had a coach in Bill Walsh that knew the different styles of play and conformed an offensive system around Young compared to Steve. Joe Montana, after he got hit with that Jim Bird hit that separated his sternum, do you remember? They never ran him anymore. He wasn't moving around in the pocket. He wasn't getting out in the perimeter like he used to. He was a straight 7-step drop back guy. But when Young was able to do it, what happened? And by the way, James, I would even make this comparison to you. One of the things that probably contributed to Steve Young's short time as a starter in the league was the fact that he ran him a lot, and that ended his career because of the concussions. Remember something. Young left the game because of concussions, because of his ability to run. He didn't leave the game because of old age. He left the game because of concussions. If you look at his final season in the league, he had a great year going. Great year. And he couldn't come back because of concussions and numerous concussions. So he left the sport because his ability to run. And Bill Walsh led to a little bit of that, with the style of offense that they put around him. He was taking incredible hits. And by the way, that hit on Young would be illegal today. So there was a different style on how Walsh prepared those guys. Have you addressed the pass rush? Kind of. Kind of. Have you addressed the pass protection? I think pass protection last year wasn't very good. Barkley? Better? Probably. Have you addressed the turnovers? Yet to be seen. Have you addressed third down pass defense? Yeah. Now, will it succeed? Has to be something that plays itself out. But they've addressed it. You can't begrudge the front office. They've addressed it. Okay? Have they addressed sideline communication? Better communicating between the offense and defense? Quarterback and coordinator? Remember what Kellen Moore said in the offseason here? He said, hey, communicating and having a smooth running operation will be key to the success. Okay? JM goes, yes, even though Jalen Hurts says that the terminology's no. Okay? Have you addressed the linebacker position? Kind of. And have you addressed the team? We'll see. Dan, Patrick Mahomes himself said he expects to face Jalen Hurts in the Super Bowl in future many times. How can the greatest quarterback in the NFC respect Hurts, but you don't? It's got nothing to do with respecting Jalen Hurts. It has nothing to do with it. Respecting Jalen Hurts? Where did you, what? Because I talk the way I do, you think I don't respect him? That's a you thing, guy. And Patrick Mahomes says that about everybody. Joe Burrow, Allen, all of them. He's a class kid. He's a class guy. He's a class guy. Kobe expected to face LeBron in the finals, but it never happened. Okay. Hey. Number one, great. I'm glad you do. And I'm okay with, hey, my friend, I agree with James Jones. You can have him. Not my style. It's just not my style. I feel like we learn nothing watching Sills. I think we're the ones teaching him. Literally jumps on YouTube and type in Philadelphia Eagles. Hey, Prince, this wasn't my take. These are some of the national people's takes. When I was talking about Jalen Hurts, that was a James Jones take. Okay? That was James Jones's take. So you're making James Jones's take mine? And again, it's a you thing. Josh Allen's a superior. Dude, nobody ever thinks outside of Philly that Jalen Hurts is better than Allen. Nobody. I don't think he would lie. Dude, whatever. Kobe said the same thing, and I agree. I remember when Kobe said that. I was going to face LeBron many times in finals. Never happened. Hey, James Jones, isn't it funny? The wide receiver from the Packers makes that comment, but these guys make it sound like I'm hating on him because the guy made a comment that Dak does everything better than Hurts. And then they bring up the winning. Well, every one of these quarterbacks that are the highest paid guys in the league, 95% of them all have losing records in the postseason. So when you throw Dak's name into that conversation with him being 2-5, well, Lamar Jackson's got 2 MVPs and he's 2-4. What's the difference between Dak and Lamar? Yet some of you look at Lamar in a higher light. Why? Because the MVPs? Okay. Is he a Does Lamar Jackson do one thing better than the read option than Dak? No. He's never thrown for over 3,200 yards. How about this one again? Cousins. Look down Cousins' list of years he's had. Is it his problem that he was in Washington and Minnesota and didn't have an organization that wants to build a team around him? They had Justin Jefferson just made $35 million because of Kirk Cousins. Twiz doesn't get it. Once again, you're paid on stats. You're not paid on wins. Twiz, you're not paid on wins. That was the case. Garoppolo would be the richest guy in the league. Or some of these other guys. Hey, no one would ever say that Kirk Cousins has been paid because he won a lot. $378 million. You also agree with Eskin? On what? I speak facts. What are your facts? What's the facts that you speak, Prince? What facts do you speak? What facts are you speaking that I'm not speaking? James Jones, did you make the Hall? No. I thought it was an interesting comment he made. Cousins is a genius. He's made more money than any quarterback in the National Football League. $378 million. No quarterback in NFL history has made more than him. And what's his record in the postseason? He's 1-3. What's that tell you? Were you paid on winning? Okay. Oh. Yeah, and again, I do want to start this off here. By the way, let's bring Xander in here. I haven't heard yet from my friend Gary Cobb, but don't